fighting game realm is filled with all kinds of fearsome opponents, from the absolutely terrifying and toothy combatants of Mortal Kombat to the admittedly quite normal looking Geese Howard from Fatal Fury, who will still kick your ass 6 ways from Sunday. But what about the opponents that manage to give us the full-on creep factor and absolutely decimate us? From endgame bosses to characters on the roster, we've got a list prepped so you know who to avoid if you're not up for a skin-crawling, controller-smashing bad time. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 creepy fighting game characters that annihilated you. Number 10. EYEDOL, Killer Instinct. When mixing pure power with nightmare fuel, there are a few places that are better for us to start with than Killer Instinct's EYEDOL. EYEDOL is a two-headed cyclops, which kind of doesn't make him a cyclops anymore technically, but you wouldn't want to say that to his face. His design exemplifies the attention to detail that Killer Instinct pour into their characters. In his 2013 model, they just straight up split his singular face in two, and despite the fact that you can now literally see his brain, EYEDOL was never a walkover. The body horror nightmare is curiously inconsistent with his attacks. He'll just casually be throwing a fireball or two, and then all of a sudden he's in your face comboing you to pieces. He also has this nasty tendency to regenerate, instant block, and do a crazy amount of damage with every one of those combos he lands on you. This is especially true of his original appearance, where he hits hard, moves fast, and heals constantly. Yucky to look at and yucky to fight. Number 9. Taboo, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. While it may not spring to mind as a classic fighter, the Super Smash Bros. Series does have a handful of opponents who are as creepy to look at as they are painful to go up against. One of these is Taboo, the leader of the Subspace Army and final boss of Brawl's adventure mode, the Subspace Emissary. Basically, he's a supernatural entity you don't really want to tangle with. He appears as a giant glowing ethereal humanoid entity and is capable of teleporting around the stage, delivering hugely damaging AoE attacks with his wings, and becoming an enormous version of himself with laser beam vision. Even though you get to choose 5 characters to fight him, trust me, you'll need them all. Especially since Taboo has 2 knockout moves, one being a gold chain that's nigh on impossible to dodge and will likely slam you into the ground, and the other called the Red Rings of Death. So named by the community, these rings cover the whole screen and guarantee a knockout regardless of your percentage. If you've mastered the sidestep, excellent, you'll need it. If not, time to see who's next on your roster. Taboo is as creepy and intimidating as he is tough to take on, and I'm betting if you encountered him first as a kid, this one's giving you those bad feelings of nostalgia. Number 8. KAHN, Mortal Kombat. KAHN might not look as classically horrifying as other entrants on the Mortal Kombat roster, but we have to pay some respect to the Outworld Emperor, who literally eats souls for breakfast. While not Baraka level messed up, KAHN still has a face only a mother could love. While his design and difficulty have changed somewhat over the years, he was an absolute menace to take on in Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. KAHN is wildly intimidating, and the fact that he's commonly referenced as one of the toughest opponents in all of fighting games certainly bolsters the fear of taking him on. Also, not wanting to get hit by that big ass hammer. In his original form, he was a rough opponent due to his massive defense, lightning-fast special attacks, and aggressive AI. In his Mortal Kombat 9 return, he gets a whole stack of new moves, including a penchant for hitting you with an X-ray move at the end of a combo, which will sap over half your health, plus a renewed love for smacking you with that old faithful hammer. There's an argument to be made that the best time to attack him is when he's taunting you, but do be warned, his bite is as bad as his bark. Number 7. MUKAI, the King of Fighters. Plenty of characters from the King of Fighters could have been perfectly at home on this list, but we're giving this entry to MUKAI. MUKAI appeared as the final boss in The King of Fighters 2003 and induces a solid amount of skin crawling thanks to his creepy visage. Hulking over other fighters and grimacing a bright white smile with similarly white eyes and hair that starkly contrasts with his deep black skin tone, he is designed to embody petrification. That's because MUKAI can control the earth. That includes creating rocks, becoming a rock, and petrifying you with a touch. He can also blast out grey energy that covers the entire screen and petrifies anyone it comes in reach of. As a member of the mysterious things from the past, the creep factor is absolutely alive with MUKAI, and given that he can absolutely freeze your character with just a touch, he's not going down easy. Number 6. SHIN AKUMA, Street Fighter. Right before legendary warrior Akuma fuses with a dark power to become Shin Akuma, he says, "I am power made flesh. Feel how weak you truly are." And trust me, you're going to. With the Satsui no Hado energy coursing through his veins, Akuma is even more deadly than usual. In any form, Akuma looks really freaky, but this particular form depicts him with a maniacal grin, bright white hair, and a darker red undertone to his skin. Do not let the flip-flops fool you. Akuma has enough teleports, double Zanku Hadoukens, and low recovery special moves that take priority to more than ensure your plan for a chill afternoon playing Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo goes in the toilet. Shin Akuma is faster than usual, very difficult to evade, and perfectly capable of reading your inputs and exploiting any gaps in your attack style. It's worth remembering that he's actually a secret boss rewarded to you for doing well, so good job? The designers programmed him to play like an expert player, and I think nobody who's gone up against him would disagree with that assessment. Number 5. VOLDO, SOULCALIBUR. Voted most likely to have shocked you when you played this game when you were a kid, VOLDO is SOULCALIBUR's resident weirdo. Appearing in every game in the series, VOLDO is as famous for being a tough fighter as he is, well, I guess being pretty big on the kink scene? Without wanting to kink shame here, VOLDO is obviously very into a certain look, which tends toward fetish clothing, leather, spikes, fishnets, and uncomfortable looking undergarments. The eyebrow-raising characteristics don't stop there though. He's a gyrating, obsessive servant of a weapons merchant who wriggles his way around the battlefield and has never had an emotion he didn't express with his whole body. In a fight, VOLDO is erratic and deadly. Despite being blind and mute, he definitely knows how to use those multi-pronged knives on the end of his hands. It's creepier to watch him attack than it is to adjust to his niche fashion sense. He menacingly hisses and groans at you, all the while zipping around the stage, delivering nasty blows and brutal unique combos. Plenty of fun to play, but super tough to go up against. He's certainly spooky, but well loved all the same. Number 4. Ivan OOZE, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Fighting Edition. Ivan OOZE may not be somebody you've thought about any time recently, but by the time I'm done with this entry, I don't think you'll be forgetting his purple mug or wanting to go up against him in the 95 SNES tie-in game. Actually named the most broken character in fighting game history by US Gamer, Ivan OOZE is not only distasteful for his yucky name and violet goatee made out of horns, in the SNES game Ivan OOZE is like a character out of a different game. He doesn't obey many of the rules the other fighters are bound by. He floats above the arena the entire time so your low attacks won't work, he can't be thrown, and he has a homing energy ball which hits multiple times and stuns you, opening up the door for a combo. Then there are his 2-weapon attacks which amount to giant fire columns, homing fireballs, a standard spark punch attack, and an attack called Invulnerable Spike. If you haven't guessed it, that one involves a force field for him and a ton of homing fireballs for you. He can't block, but honestly, why would he need to? If you want to laugh, challenge your friends to a game and make sure you're playing as this dude. He's a gruesome sight, but he's not going down easy. Or at all. Number 3. HISAKO, Killer Instinct 2013. Jess, I hear you say, these dudes are definitely hard to fight, but where are the really scary ones that are gonna absolutely frighten the blue out of my jeans? Well, for that one, we have to head back to Killer Instinct, and we're gonna check in with HISAKO. The nightmariest of nightmare fuel HISAKO is enough to make a particularly frail scaredy cat throw a match. She's clearly designed taking strong inspiration from the classic Japanese ghost antagonists of films like Ringu. I really don't think you need me to explain why she's so creepy, but just in case, she actively possesses her opponents and can cause them to convulse. She also comes with a jump scare animation and a horrifying victory cinematic where her jaw appears to unhinge. Even if you're playing as her, you're not free from the inevitable creep factor. Like other characters on the Killer Instinct roster, her strength lies in her unpredictable movement, her deadly counters, and her massive blade which she wields to great effect. She actually has a really admirable backstory where it turns out she died defending a bunch of villagers from an attack. It's just a shame that it's so hard to root for her when I'm too scared to look at her. Number 2. GORO, Mortal Kombat. If you were a kid in the 1990s yet to learn about cheesing video game bosses, then I'm sure you had a hard time with GORO. This four-armed monstrosity was a shock on the Mortal Kombat roster, which was otherwise mainly humanoid fighters who all have the expected amount of limbs. Goro's hearty growls and brutally hard-hitting attacks would have given kids the world over the fright of their life when they set eyes upon him in the first game of the franchise. He's incredibly tough, frightening to look at, and there was an additional creep factor as his movements had to be created through using a clay figure in stop motion instead of motion capture. When a thing that massive is charging at you, it's definitely going to put you off your game. Goro may not be the toughest opponent on the Mortal Kombat roster, but you just can't downplay that many scared kids. Number 1. Master Core, Super Smash Bros. 3DS and Wii U. Master Hand seriously scarred my personal childhood, but we're going for the toughest enemies here, not just the creepiest ones, so we're gonna go with Master Core. Should you be playing the classic mode and made short work of Master Hand and Crazy Hand, you'll encounter the baddest dude in the game, Master Core and his numerous forms. If you want the full experience here, you'll want to fight him on 9.0 difficulty. Well, you won't want to, but you know what I mean. Master Core begins the fight as a gigantic black swarm in the vague shape of a humanoid, lifting the stage and attempting to headbutt you with the aid of bombs and homing missiles, before then becoming a shadowy dinosaur set to chomp your face off. He also comes in the form of blades and finally a shadow mirror of yourself. His design paired with the tension of the fight are straight up spine-chilling. If you want an added challenge, in the Wii U version, he has an additional form where he becomes a literal level that you'll need to complete in order to get the win. The entire experience is sure to have your heart pounding. And that's our list. Do let me know down in that comment section which creepy fighting game characters had you jamming on the retry button. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like, you can come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great content.